6 months after the Battle of Kepler Station, Admiral Tejo stood in the ruins of the Dominion Senate building on Nexus Prime. Smoke still rose from the shattered towers that had once housed the most powerful government in the galaxy. Now they were just broken stone and twisted metal. The last Dominion stronghold has fallen, reported Captain So-Min from her position near the entrance. Admiral Dong-hyun's forces secured the final weapons depot an hour ago. Tejo nodded but didn't feel the satisfaction he had expected. The war was over. The Dominion was defeated. His people were free. So why did he feel like something terrible had been unleashed? "Sir," called Navigator Boram from her portable command station, "we're receiving reports from across the former Dominion territory. Human ships are taking control of all major installations." "Taking control?" Tejo asked. "I thought they were liberating those worlds." Boram looked uncomfortable. "According to these reports, Captain Yoon-hee's occupation forces are implementing what they call transition protocols. All former Dominion citizens are being relocated to temporary housing, while their worlds are reorganized." Through the broken windows of the Senate building, Tejo could see human ships landing in the city below. Not military vessels, these were colony ships. Hundreds of them, filled with human civilians ready to make new homes on former Dominion worlds. "How many humans are there?" Engineer Kite asked in amazement. 300 years ago, they only controlled a few dozen worlds. "They've been busy," said a familiar voice. Everyone turned to see Dr. Yan Wu approaching through the rubble. She looked exactly the same as she had during their first meeting on Luna, except now she wore the uniform of a planetary administrator. "Dr. Yan Wu," Tejo said carefully, "I wasn't expecting to see you here so soon." "The transition process requires careful oversight," she replied with a smile. "We can't simply leave former Dominion worlds to govern themselves. They need guidance, education, reform." She gestured toward the city below, where human construction crews were already beginning to tear down Dominion monuments and replace them with human architecture. The Dominion spent centuries teaching these people that conquest and slavery were normal. Dr. Yanwu continued. "We're going to teach them better ways." Tejo felt a chill. "What about their own cultures? Their own governments? Those will be preserved wherever possible," Dr. Yanwu assured him, "as long as they're compatible with human values of freedom, equality, and peaceful cooperation." "And if they're not compatible?" Dr. Yanwu's smile didn't waver. "Then they'll be modified until they are." A commotion near the entrance drew their attention. A group of former Dominion citizens was being escorted by human soldiers. They looked confused and frightened, clutching small bags that contained all their remaining possessions. "Where are you taking them?" So-Min asked. "Re-education facilities," Dr. Yanwu explained. "Former Dominion military personnel and government officials need to unlearn their aggressive tendencies. It's for their own good, really." One of the prisoners, an elderly alien with gray skin and tired eyes, looked directly at Tejo. "You brought them here," he said in accented Galactic Standard. "You called the humans to save us from the Dominion." "Yes," Tejo replied. "We did." The old alien's laugh was bitter. "My grandfather used to tell stories about humans. He said they were devils who corrupted everything they touched. I thought he was just a crazy old man." "Move along," ordered one of the human guards, but not unkindly. "Transport leaves in 10 minutes. As the group was led away, Dr. Yanwu turned back to Tejo. "Don't let individual cases trouble you, Admiral. The transformation process takes time, but the results are always beneficial." "Transformation into what?" "Into people who can live in a galaxy ruled by reason instead of force," Dr. Yanwu replied. "People who understand that cooperation is better than conquest." She walked to one of the broken windows and looked out over the city. "Admiral, do you know why the galaxy once feared humanity? It wasn't because we were cruel or evil. It was because we were efficient." Kitai joined them at the window. "Efficient at what?" "At making other species become like us," Dr. Yanwu said simply. "When humans conquer a world, we don't just defeat the military. We reshape the entire society. Within a generation, their children think like human children. They value what we value. They want what we want." "That's cultural genocide," So-Min said quietly. "That's evolution," Dr. Yanwu corrected. "The galaxy is full of species that solve problems through violence, oppression, and exploitation. We're teaching them better methods. Tae-ho thought about the reports he'd been receiving from the Corvani Republic. Human advisors had arrived to help rebuild their war-damaged worlds. Human teachers were establishing schools. Human doctors were providing advanced medical care. His people were grateful, but he was beginning to understand the price of that gratitude. "What about us?" he asked. "What about the Corvani Republic?" "Your people will be fine," Dr. Yanwu assured him. "You made the right choice by asking for our help. The transition will be much easier for allies than for former enemies." "Transition to what?" Dr. Yanwu looked at him with something that might have been sympathy. "Admiral, your old government was based on military honor and warrior traditions. That's admirable. But it's also what led to the wars that nearly destroyed your people. We're helping you build something better." Through the window, Tae-ho could see Corvani children playing in a human-designed playground, while their parents attended human-taught classes on peaceful conflict resolution. The children were laughing and happy, but they were playing human games and speaking words in both Corvani and human languages. "In 50 years, Dr. Yanwu said softly, those children will be adults. They'll remember the old warrior traditions as quaint historical curiosities like ancient folktales. They'll build a society based on cooperation and scientific advancement instead of military glory. And if we don't want that, Admiral," Dr. Yanwu said, turning to face him fully, "you asked us for help because your old ways were failing. The warrior culture that your people were so proud of couldn't protect them from the Dominion. Only human methods could do that." She gestured toward the city below, where human and alien workers were already building new structures designed for efficiency and harmony rather than intimidation and control. "We're not destroying your culture," she continued. "We're improving it, making it more compatible with a peaceful galaxy." That evening, Tae-ho sat alone in his temporary quarters, writing his final log entry as a military commander. Tomorrow he would return to the Corvani Republic to help oversee the transition to their new form of government. A democratic federation, based on human principles. Personal log. "Admiral Tae-ho, final entry," he said to the recording device. "The war is over. The Dominion is defeated. Our people are safe. But as I sit here in the ruins of our enemy's capital, I can't shake the feeling that we've simply traded one form of conquest for another." He paused, looking out the window at human ships unloading more colonists and administrators. "The humans don't destroy their enemies," he continued. "They transform them. They make them into friends, allies, partners who think and act like humans. It's brilliant, really. Why waste resources fighting people when you can make them want to be like you?" A soft chime indicated that someone was at his door. Tae-ho opened it to find Captain Yoon-hee, the human officer in charge of planetary transition operations. "Admiral," she said with a warm smile, "I wanted to thank you personally. Without your courage in approaching us, none of this would have been possible." "Did we do the right thing?" Tae-ho asked. Yoon-hee's expression grew serious. "Admiral, in 10 years, former Dominion worlds will be peaceful, prosperous, and happy. Their children will grow up without fear of war or oppression. Former enemies will work together to explore the galaxy and advance science."
How could that be wrong?
After she left, Tae-ho returned to his log entry. "I think I finally understand why the galaxy exiled humanity 3 centuries ago," he said. "It wasn't because they were afraid humans would destroy them. It was because they were afraid humans would make them unnecessary." He looked out the window one last time at the human ships landing in the growing darkness. "We called upon the humans to save us from monsters, and they did. But in the process, they've made sure there will never be monsters again, because in a few generations, everyone in the galaxy will think like humans, act like humans, and want what humans want." Tae-ho turned off the recording device and prepared for sleep. Outside, the work of transformation continued through the night. By morning, Nexus Prime would be one step closer to becoming a human world inhabited by people who had once been the galaxy's greatest threat. The monsters were gone. But in their place, something far more permanent had taken root, and perhaps Tae-ho thought as he drifted off to sleep, that was exactly what the galaxy needed after all. The Battle of Kepler Station began at dawn on the 3rd day of the 7th month. Overlord Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his massive fleet prepare to crush what remained of the Corvani resistance. He had brought 300 ships to finish this war once and for all. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, Long-range sensors show approximately 20 Corvani vessels defending the station. They appear to be making a final stand. Vextar smiled with satisfaction. After months of chasing the rebels through the Outer Rim, he would finally destroy Admiral Tejo and his pathetic fleet. Then the galaxy would know that the Dominion could not be defied. "Signal the fleet," he commanded. "Standard attack formation. Let's end this quickly." The Dominion dreadnoughts moved forward in perfect coordination. Each ship was a kilometer long and bristling with weapons. Against 20 damaged Corvani cruisers, the battle should have been over in minutes. But as the first wave of Dominion ships closed to firing range, something impossible happened. Ships appeared from nowhere. "Contact!" screamed the sensor operator. Unknown vessels decloaking directly behind our main formation. On the tactical display, Vextar watched in disbelief as dozens of strange ships materialized from empty space. They were smaller than his dreadnoughts, but moved with incredible speed and precision.
"What are those ships?" he demanded. "What species builds vessels like that?" Before anyone could answer, the unknown ships opened fire. But their weapons were unlike anything Vextar had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or missiles, they fired solid projectiles at massive speeds.
The kinetic rounds punched through Dominion shields like they weren't even there. "Impossible," Vextar shouted. "Kinetic weapons can't penetrate modern shield technology." The Hammer of Justice, one of his finest dreadnoughts, took a direct hit from what looked like a simple metal rod. The projectile went completely through the ship and out the other side, leaving a perfectly round hole through which atmosphere and crew members were being sucked into space. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet," reported the communications officer. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed a human face. Vextar had seen pictures of humans in historical files, but seeing one alive was different. The woman had short black hair and cold eyes that seemed to look right through him. "I am Captain Da'Yun of the Earth Defense Force," she said in perfect galactic standard. "You are Overlord Vextar, leader of the Dominion military." "Humans," Vextar breathed. "That's impossible. You were banished centuries ago." "We were exiled," Da'Yun corrected. "There's a difference. Now we've returned and we bring justice for your crimes against the innocent." She gestured to something off-screen. "Surrender immediately and you will be given the same mercy you showed the children of Altair Prime." Vexitar's face twisted with rage. "You dare threaten the Dominion? We are the masters of this galaxy. We will crush you like we crushed every other species that dared oppose us." Da'Yun's expression didn't change. "You are welcome to try. Begin the demonstration." The transmission ended. Immediately, the human ships began moving in patterns that defied everything Vextar knew about space combat. They didn't maintain formation or follow predictable attack routes. Instead, they flowed around his fleet like water, striking wherever his defenses were weakest. "Sir, the Eternal Victory is reporting massive system failures," called out a technician. "Something has infected their computer networks." On the tactical display, Vextar watched one of his heavy cruisers suddenly turn its weapons on the ships around it. The Eternal Victory began firing on its own allies, and its confused crew couldn't regain control of their systems. "How is that possible?" Vextar demanded. "Unknown, sir. The virus appears to be rewriting their command protocols faster than their computers can adapt." Lieutenant Hyun-Soo smiled from her position aboard the human command ship Retribution. Her cyber warfare systems had been designed specifically to exploit Dominion computer networks. While the enemy spent centuries perfecting their weapons and shields, they had ignored the security of their digital systems. "Sir," she reported to Captain Da'Yun, "I've taken control of 12 enemy vessels. Their AI systems are trying to counteract my intrusion, but they're too slow." "Excellent work," Da'Yun replied. "Phase 2, all units." Across the human fleet, stealth ships that had been hiding in the asteroid field suddenly revealed themselves. But these vessels weren't moving toward the Dominion ships. They were heading directly for Kepler station itself. Vextar watched in confusion as the small human ships docked with the station. "What are they doing? There's nothing valuable on that station." His question was answered moments later when Commander Jae-hoon led his boarding teams through the station's corridors. But they weren't there to capture anything. They were there to turn the station into a weapon. Charges placed, Jae-hoon reported to his team. Begin evacuation of friendly personnel. Within minutes, every Corvani defender had been evacuated from Kepler station. Then the humans activated their explosives, but not to destroy the station. Instead, the charges launched the entire facility toward the Dominion fleet like a massive projectile. Evasive maneuvers, Vextar screamed as the station, now moving at incredible speed, bore down on his flagship. The destroyer of worlds barely managed to avoid being crushed, but 3 other dreadnoughts weren't so lucky. The station smashed, through them like they were made of paper, leaving twisted wreckage floating in space. But the humans weren't finished. Captain Minho's stealth fighters had been moving through the Dominion formation, planting devices on enemy hulls. When he activated them, the devices released clouds of nanobots that began eating through armor plating. "Sir, we're losing hull integrity across the fleet," reported Vextar's engineering officer. "Something is literally consuming our ships." "Fall back," Vextar ordered. "All ships retreat to minimum safe distance." But as his fleet tried to withdraw, they discovered that the humans had surrounded them. What had looked like 20 Corvani ships at the beginning of the battle was actually a perfectly coordinated trap involving over 100 human vessels. "Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Tae-ho," announced the communications officer. Tae-ho appeared on screen, but he looked different than before. Calmer, more confident. "Overlord Vexitar, I believe you wanted to discuss surrender terms." "This isn't over," Vexitar snarled. "The Dominion has 1,000 ships. You've defeated 1 fleet." "Actually," said a new voice, "we've defeated 6 fleets." The screen split to show Dr. Yan Wu speaking from the human command center on Luna. Behind her, tactical displays showed Dominion forces across the galaxy under simultaneous attack. "While you were focused on this battle," she explained, "our other strike forces were eliminating your garrison fleets at Proxima Base, Centauri Station, and 4 other key positions. As of this moment, the Dominion military has lost approximately 40% of its total strength." Vexitar stared at the displays in horror. Each showed the same thing: human ships appearing from nowhere and destroying Dominion forces with weapons and tactics that seemed impossible. "How?" he whispered. 300 years of preparation, Doctor," Yanwu replied. 300 years of studying your weaknesses and developing countermeasures. You spent that time conquering peaceful worlds. We spent it learning how to destroy you." Captain Da-Eun's face reappeared on screen. "Overlord, Vextar, you have 1 chance to minimize the casualties among your remaining forces. Surrender now and we will accept the capitulation of your troops. Continue fighting, and we will demonstrate why the galaxy once feared humanity enough to exile us." Vextar looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. For the first time in his life, he saw fear in Dominion eyes. These soldiers had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced an enemy like this. "What are your terms?" he asked quietly. "Total and unconditional surrender," Da-Eun replied. "All Dominion military forces will stand down immediately. All enslaved populations will be freed. All war criminals will be handed over for trial. And if I refuse?" Da-Eun's smile was cold as space itself. "Then you'll discover what happened to the last people who underestimated humanity. Spoiler alert, they're not around to talk about it anymore." As alarms continued to sound across his flagship and damage reports flooded in from across his fleet, Vextar finally understood what his people had awakened. The galaxy had exiled humanity not because they were weak, but because they were terrifying. Now the monsters had returned and they remembered everything. The elevator descended deep into the heart of Earth's moon. Admiral Tae-ho watched the numbers count down. 50 levels, 100, 200. Finally, it stopped at level 312. "This is as deep as we go," Director Hansol said as the doors opened. "Welcome to the command center." Tae-ho stepped out into a vast underground chamber that stretched further than he could see. The ceiling was supported by massive pillars, and the walls were lined with screens showing data from across the galaxy. Hundreds of humans worked at stations, monitoring everything from trade routes to military movements. How long have you been building this? Navigator Boram asked in amazement. Since the day the galaxy exiled us, Hansol replied. 300 years of digging, planning, and preparing. They walked through the facility toward a heavily guarded section at the center. Teho noticed that the humans here moved with military precision. These weren't civilians. They were soldiers who had been training for war their entire lives. The High Council is waiting, Hansol said as they approached a reinforced door. Remember, Admiral, speak truthfully. They have ways of detecting lies that you wouldn't believe. The door opened to reveal a circular chamber with 7 seats arranged around a central table. 6 of the seats were occupied by humans, while the 7th remained empty. At the head of the table sat an elderly woman with white hair and scars covering half her face. Admiral Sujin, Hansol said with respect. This is Admiral Teho of the Corvani Republic. Sujin studied Teho with eyes that had seen too much war. You are the first alien to stand in this chamber since we were driven from the galaxy. Speak your piece. Teho stepped forward. Admiral Sujin, my people are dying. The Dominion Empire has launched a war of extermination against the Outer Rim colonies. They have already conquered 47 worlds and show no signs of stopping. And what do you want from us? Asked a younger man to Sujin's right. Your help in stopping them. The council members exchanged glances. A woman with cybernetic implants covering her left arm leaned forward. Dr. Yanwu, Strategic Planning Division. Tell me, Admiral, why should we care what happens to the galaxy that exiled us? Teho had expected this question. Because the Dominion won't stop with the Outer Rim. Once they control those systems, they'll move on the mid-colonies. Eventually, they'll come here. Let them come, said another council member. We've been preparing for them. Dr. Yanwu smiled coldly. Admiral, do you know what we've been doing for 3 centuries while the galaxy ignored us? We've been studying our enemies. Every species, every government, every military force that might one day threaten Earth. She gestured to the screens around the chamber. We know more about Dominion tactics than they know about themselves. We've tracked their supply lines, analyzed their weapons, and identified their weaknesses. Then you can help us defeat them, Teho said hopefully. Oh, we can do much more than that, Dr. Yanwu replied. We can destroy them completely. The question is whether we want to. Admiral Sujin raised her hand for silence. Bring in Captain Dayun. A side door opened and a young woman in military uniform entered. She moved with the fluid grace of someone trained in combat from childhood. When she spoke, her voice was calm and confident. Captain Dayun, Special Operations Division, she introduced herself. Admiral Teho, Dr. Yanwu asked me to prepare a demonstration of our capabilities. She activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed a Dominion battleship, one of their massive dreadnoughts that Teho had faced in countless battles. This is the Destroyer of Worlds, Overlord Vextar's flagship, Dayun explained. Length 2 kilometers. Crew 50,000. Weapons, particle beam arrays, quantum torpedoes, and energy shields strong enough to withstand a direct hit from a stellar bomb. Engineer Kite leaned forward. We fought those ships. Our weapons barely scratched their hulls. Dayun smiled. That's because you fight like civilized beings. Watch this. The hologram changed to show a much smaller human vessel approaching the dreadnought. It was barely a tenth the size of the Dominion ship, but something about it looked dangerous. This is the Ghostwalker, one of our stealth frigates. It operates using technology that the Dominion doesn't understand. Quantum phase manipulation that allows it to exist partially outside normal space. B. Hologram showed the human ship simply appearing inside the dreadnought's shields. Before the Dominion crew could react, boarding pods launched directly into the hull. 48 minutes later, the Destroyer of Worlds was under human control, Dayun continued. The crew of 5,000 Dominion soldiers was eliminated by 36 human Marines. Boram stared at the display in shock. That's impossible. No boarding party can take a ship that size. Not following conventional tactics, Dayun agreed. But humans don't follow conventional tactics. We use the enemy's assumptions against them. They expect honorable combat, so we attack from the shadows. They expect mercy for prisoners, so we show none. They expect us to follow the rules of war. But we wrote different rules, Admiral Sujin said quietly. Dr. Yanwu activated another display. Admiral Teho, let me show you what 3 centuries of preparation looks like. The screen filled with images of human ships unlike anything Teho had ever seen. Some were designed to ramming attacks that could split enemy vessels in half. Others were covered in weapons that fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Still others seemed to be built around massive bombs. We call this the Retribution Fleet, Dr. Yanwu explained. Every ship is designed specifically to fight the enemies who drove us from the galaxy. The Dominion, the Hegemony, the Trade Federation, we have counters for all of them. Kite studied the technical specifications with growing amazement. These weapon systems, they violate half the laws of physics. They violate half the laws that other species follow, corrected a council member. We've had 300 years to develop new approaches to science and warfare. Admiral Sujin stood up and walked to a large window that looked out over the command center. Admiral Teho, I was there when the galaxy united to drive us from our homes. I watched our colonies burn. I saw our children die in the void between stars. She turned back to face him. But I also learned something that day. The galaxy feared us not because we were evil, but because we were effective. We didn't fight wars, we ended them. Will you help us? Teho asked. Yes, Sujin said simply. But there will be conditions. Dr. Yanwu leaned forward. First, this will not be a partnership of equals. Human forces will operate under human command. Your ships will follow our tactics and our rules. Second, continued Captain Daun, when this war is over, humanity will not retreat back to Sol. We will take our place as a major power in the galaxy. Third, Admiral Sujin added, the Dominion will not simply be defeated. They will be destroyed utterly. Every ship, every base, every soldier who has participated in their war crimes will be eliminated. Teho felt a chill. You're talking about genocide. I'm talking about justice, Sujin replied coldly. The Dominion has shown no mercy to their victims. They will receive none from us. She walked back to her seat. These are our terms, Admiral. Accept them, and we will save your people and end the Dominion threat forever. Refuse them and you can return to your dying fleet. Teho looked at his companions. Boram and Kite were staring at the weapon displays with mixture of fear and fascination. These humans had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment, building weapons and tactics that could destroy any enemy. How long before you can deploy? He asked. Our advanced fleets are already moving, Dr. Yanwu said with satisfaction. Captain Daun's strike force left Earth orbit the moment your ship entered human space. They should reach the outer rim in approximately 6 days. You were that confident we would agree? Admiral Sujin's smile was sharp as a blade. Admiral, you came to us because you were desperate. Desperate people don't refuse salvation even when it comes with a price. She stood up again. Welcome to the Alliance, Admiral Teho. I hope you're prepared for what you've unleashed upon the galaxy. As alarms began to sound throughout the facility, and humans rushed to their battle stations, Teho realized that the war was about to change in ways no one could have imagined. The galaxy had forgotten why it once feared humanity. It was about to remember. The silent dawn drifted through the quantum storms that surrounded the Sol system. Navigator Boram wiped sweat from her forehead as she tried to keep the small ship steady. The storms had protected Earth for 300 years, but they were also trying to tear the scout vessel apart. Hull integrity at 60%, reported Engineer Kite from his station. The quantum fields are playing havoc with our systems. I'm not sure how much more we can take. Admiral Teho sat in the captain's chair, studying the sensor readings. They had been traveling for 2 weeks through the Forbidden Zone. Every day Boram had warned him that they might not make it to the next. But somehow the little ship held together. Sir, Boram called out. I'm picking up something on the edge of sensor range. It's a ship, Teho leaned forward. Dominion? No, sir. The design is completely unknown. It's small, maybe a patrol craft, but the energy signatures are strange. Very strange. On the main screen, a vessel appeared that looked like it had been built from spare parts. The hull was patched with metal from a dozen different sources. Weapons stuck out at odd angles. It looked like someone had taken a broken ship and fixed it with whatever they could find. It's hailing us, Boram said with surprise. Put it through. The screen flickered and showed a human face. Teho had seen pictures of humans in the old files, but seeing one alive was different. The man had dark hair and tired eyes. When he spoke, his galactic standard was rough and broken. Unknown ship, you are in human space. State your business or prepare to be destroyed. Teho stood up slowly. I am Admiral Teho of the Corvani Republic. We come seeking an audience with your leaders. The human stared at him for a long moment. You are Corvani. Your people voted to banish us 3 centuries ago. Yes, and now we need your help. The human's expression didn't change. I am Captain Park, follow my ship. Do not deviate from the course I give you. Any attempt to scan our space or transmit signals will result in your immediate destruction. The transmission ended. Park's strange ship began moving toward the inner system, and Boram followed carefully. Sir, Kite whispered. That ship shouldn't be able to move like that. Its engine configuration is completely wrong according to our physics. Maybe human physics are different from ours, Tejo replied. They traveled for 6 hours through the asteroid belt around Mars. Tejo noticed that many of the asteroids had been hollowed out and turned into stations. Weapons platforms tracked their movement, and he could see the dark mouths of missile tubes pointed at them. They've turned the entire system into a fortress, Boram observed. Finally, they reached Luna, Earth's moon. What Tejo saw there made him gasp. The entire lunar surface had been carved into a massive military base. Gun batteries the size of skyscrapers pointed out toward space. Hangar bays could be seen cut deep into the moon's surface. By the void, Kite breathed. How many ships do they have in there? Captain Park's voice came over the comm. Dock at Bay 7. Do not bring weapons. Do not bring recording devices. You will be escorted at all times. The silent dawn settled into a landing bay that was larger than most space stations Tejo had ever seen. As they walked down the ramp, armed humans in strange armor surrounded them. The soldiers didn't speak, but their weapons were pointed directly at the Corvani visitors. They were led through corridors carved from solid rock. The walls were lined with display cases showing human military history. Tejo saw weapons he didn't recognize, battle flags from campaigns he'd never heard of, and photographs of human soldiers standing over the bodies of alien enemies. Cheerful place, Kite muttered. The escort brought them to a large chamber where a middle-aged human woman sat behind a metal desk. She had gray hair and scars on her hands. When she looked up at them, her eyes were cold and calculating. I am Director Hansol, she said. Her galactic standard was much better than Captain Park's. I am the military administrator of this facility. Captain Park tells me you came here asking for help. Tejo stepped forward. Director Hansol, I am Admiral Tejo. My people are being destroyed by the Dominion Empire. They have already conquered 47 worlds and enslaved billions. We are the last free fleet in the Outer Rim. Hansol studied him quietly. And what makes you think we would help you? Your people were among those who voted to exile us from the galaxy. Because the Dominion won't stop with us, Tejo said. Once they control the Outer Rim, they'll move on the mid-systems. Eventually they'll come here too. Let them come, Hansol said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. We've been preparing for 3 centuries. She gestured to the walls around them. Do you know what we've been doing while you and the rest of the galaxy pretended we didn't exist? We've been learning, studying, planning. Hansol stood up and walked to a wall display. With the touch of a button, it showed tactical information about the Dominion fleet. Ship designs, weapon specifications, battle tactics, everything was there in perfect detail. How do you know all this? Tejo asked in amazement. We've been watching, Hansol replied. Every battle the Dominion has fought, we've studied. Every new ship they've built, we've analyzed. Every weakness they've shown, we've cataloged. Boram stepped closer to the display. These files are more detailed than our own intelligence reports. That's because your intelligence gathering is limited by the rules of civilized warfare, Hansol said. We have no such limitations. She called up another display showing human ship designs. The vessels looked completely different from anything Tejo had ever seen. They were smaller than Dominion dreadnoughts but covered in weapons. Some seemed to be designed to become invisible. Others looked like they could ram through enemy hulls. For 300 years we've been building a fleet designed specifically to fight the Dominion, Hansol explained. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic has been created with one goal in mind, to destroy them completely. Kite stared at the technical specifications. This technology, it's impossible. Ships can't fight while cloaked. Kinetic weapons can't penetrate modern shields. Impossible according to whose rules? Hansol asked. The same rules that said humans could never be defeated? The same rules that the Dominion follows? She walked back to her desk and sat down. Here's what I find interesting, Admiral. The galaxy spent 50 years fighting us and barely managed to drive us back to Sol. The Dominion has conquered 47 worlds in just 2 years. What does that tell you? Tejo thought about it. That the Dominion is stronger than the forces that fought you. Or, Hansel said quietly, that we were holding back. The room fell silent. Tejo felt a chill run down his spine as he realized what she was implying. You mean you could have won the war against the galaxy? Hansel's smile was cold and sharp. Admiral, we were never trying to conquer the galaxy. We were trying to survive it, but the galaxy mistook our restraint for weakness. She stood up again and moved to another display. This one showed human battle records from the Great Purge. Tejo had read some of these files, but seeing them presented by the humans themselves was different. The Battle of Vega Station, Hansel said, pointing to one record. 5,000 human Marines against 20,000 Dominion soldiers. The Dominion had better weapons, better armor, better ships. But we won anyway. Do you know why? Superior tactics? Tejo guessed. Because we didn't fight like civilized beings, Hansel replied. We fought like humans. We used their own dead against them. We turned their weapons on their allies. We made them afraid to sleep, afraid to eat, afraid to trust their own shadows. She turned to face Tejo directly. The Dominion calls you enemies. They call you rebels. But they call us something else entirely. They call us nightmares, Tejo swallowed hard. Will you help us? Hansel was quiet for a long moment. That decision isn't mine to make, Admiral. But I will take you to those who can decide. Be warned, though. If they agree to help you, there will be a price. And it may be higher than you're willing to pay. As she led them deeper into the lunar complex, Tejo wondered what he had gotten his people into. But behind them, the galaxy was burning. And sometimes, when everything is on fire, you have to make a deal with the devils to put it out. The bridge of the Corvani flagship shook as another blast hit the shields. Admiral Tejo gripped his chair and watched the tactical display with growing despair. Red dots filled the screen, enemy ships closing in from all sides. His fleet was dying. Admiral, the Stormwing is gone, reported Captain So-Min from her damaged cruiser. Her voice cracked through the static. They took a direct hit to the reactor core. Tejo closed his eyes for a moment. The Stormwing had been home to 3,000 souls. Good people. Brave people. Now they were just glowing debris floating in space. How many ships do we have left? He asked. Commander Wujin checked his console. 17 vessels still able to fight, sir. The rest are either destroyed or too damaged to continue. 17 ships. Tejo remembered when the Corvani Republic had commanded over 200 warships. That was before the Dominion came. Before Overlord Vexistar decided that the Outer Rim colonies needed to be crushed under his iron fist. The main screen showed the enemy fleet advancing. Massive black ships shaped like daggers cut through space toward them. Each one was 3 times larger than Tejo's biggest cruiser. They moved with the confidence of predators who knew their prey was cornered. Sir. Incoming transmission from the enemy flagship, announced Communications Officer Eugene. Put it through. The screen flickered and showed Overlord Vexistar. He was a tall, thin creature with pale skin and cold black eyes. When he smiled, it looked like a wound opening in his face. Admiral Tejo, Vexistar said in his smooth voice. Your resistance has been entertaining, but this ends now. Surrender, and I will allow your people to serve the Dominion as slaves. Refuse, and I will turn your homeworld into ash. Tejo stood up straight. My answer is the same as always, Vexistar. Go burn in the void. The enemy commander's smile grew wider. So be it, you chose death over wisdom. Your people will remember this moment, when they are dragging chains across the mines of Dominus Prime. The transmission ended. Almost immediately, the enemy ships opened fire. Beams of deadly energy lanced across space. Tejo's ships fired back, but their weapons barely scratched the enemy hulls. Admiral, called out Lieutenant Haijin from the intelligence station. I'm reading massive energy buildup from their main fleet. They're preparing something big. Tejo nodded grimly. This was how it would end. 17 ships against 300. The last free fleet in the Outer Rim, about to become space dust. All ships, this is Admiral Tejo. He broadcast to his remaining captains. It has been an honor to serve with you. Make them pay for every inch. But as the words left his mouth, something nagged at his mind. A memory from his academy days. Professor Byung-ho had been an old Corvani scholar who studied galactic history. He used to tell stories about the ancient wars back when the galaxy was young and chaotic. Hyejin, Tejo called out suddenly. Access the restricted archives. Search for files about humanity. The young lieutenant looked confused. Sir, humanity was banished centuries ago. The Sol exclusion zone. Just do it. Heejin's fingers flew over her console. After a few moments, she looked up with surprise. Admiral, these files are heavily classified. Level 7 clearance required. Override it. Use my command codes. The screen filled with old text and grainy images. Taeho read quickly, his eyes growing wider with each line. Battle reports from 300 years ago. Records of human tactics that had made even the strongest alien races retreat in terror. Captain So-min's voice cut through his reading. Admiral, their dreadnoughts are moving into firing position. We have maybe 10 minutes before they turn us into particles. But Taeho was deep in the files now. He read about human boarding parties that could take over ships twice their size, about human soldiers who fought without fear, without mercy, without any of the rules that civilized species followed, about weapons and tactics so brutal that the entire galaxy had united to drive humanity back to their home system. Sir, Heejin whispered, these records, they say humans killed over 50 million Dominion soldiers in the Battle of Epsilon Station, and they only had 30,000 troops. Wu Jin looked over from his station. That's impossible. No species fights like that. Humans did, Taeho said quietly. That's why the galaxy was so eager to get rid of them. They weren't just good at war, they were terrifying at it. Another blast shook the ship. The lights flickered and sparks flew from damaged consoles. Admiral, what are you thinking? So-min asked over the comm. Taeho stared at the files on his screen. 3 centuries ago, when the Dominion was just one empire among many, they had been stopped cold by human resistance. The reports spoke of Dominion commanders who refused to fight humans, calling them devils and monsters. Hye-jin, do we have any ships fast enough to reach the Sol system? The lieutenant checked her sensors. The Silent Dawn is our fastest scout ship. It could make the journey, but sir, the Sol exclusion zone is forbidden. No one who goes there ever comes back. Maybe that's because humans don't let them leave, Taeho muttered. He stood up and walked to the main display. The enemy ships were so close now he could see the gun ports opening along their hulls. In a few minutes they would fire their main weapons and end this war forever. Wu Jin, prepare the Silent Dawn for immediate departure. Skeleton crew only. Sir, where are we going? Taeho looked at his officers. Good people, all of them. They deserved to know the truth about what he was planning. We're going to Earth, he said simply. We're going to ask the humans for help. The bridge went silent except for the hum of failing life support systems. Sir, So-min said carefully, humans hate us. They hate everyone. That's why we banished them. No, Taeho said, still staring at the enemy fleet. We banished them because we were afraid of them. Because they were better at war than we ever imagined possible. Well, now we need someone who's good at war. He turned to face his crew. The Dominion has crushed 47 worlds. They've enslaved billions of people. They show no mercy, no honor, no compassion. Maybe it's time we fought fire with fire. The enemy dreadnoughts began to glow as they charged their main weapons. All ships, Taeho broadcast, continue the fight as long as possible. Make them think we're making a last stand. Wu Jin, get us to that scout ship. We have a devil's bargain to make. As they ran through the corridors toward the hangar bay, Taeho wondered if he was making the right choice. But as another explosion rocked the ship and the lights went out, he realized they were out of options. Sometimes when you're cornered and desperate, you call upon the one enemy everyone else fears, even if that enemy might be worse than the monsters you're already fighting.